Hey, hey.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live episode of the Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things podcast show. I'm your host, Carrie Roberts, and I have with me today professional drummer, musician, Jeff Franca. Welcome, Jeff. Thanks for being here.
What's up, everybody? I'm just cruising around with my pup here. We'll be back in the studio shortly. We can show you everything that goes on in the creative process.
Yes, I like this like kind of day in the life experience that we're going through with you, Jeff, as well.
You know, extraordinary people just doing extraordinary things.
Exactly. I love it. So, I would love for we're going to get to kind of the professional stuff you do now, but I would love for you to start with where your interest in music and drumming came from so many years ago. When did it start?
Cool. Yeah. I think now thinking back, um, there was always something. Obviously, music has spoke spoken to me as a whole. I started on guitar actually. When I was 5 or 6, I got a little mini guitar, and my parents got me guitar lessons for a while. So I kind of learned about the basics of notation and this and that. But I always had this. My little brother had this like 10 box, like kind of Russian doll thing, but it was Mickey Mouse boxes. So you could undo them and go like do, 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 and hit all 10. And I always would just set those up around me and play them with my Tinker toys. I don't know if you remember Tinker toys, but they're
Yes, I
like,
did.
yeah, they're like those wood kind of wheels with, so they made great sticks and mallets. So there's just, I think it's a rhythm thing. It's something about the feeling of being in the groove that is really always attracted me to, the drums especially. It's kind of an old antiquitous, instrument and idea of groove and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of it as far as the early days, you know, before I
Were you taking lessons at that point? So you said you were doing guitar, but then you kind of got into the drumming you were just playing as a kid. When did you start taking lessons?
so my first guitar lesson, I think I was like 6 years old, and I did a little recital where I played some like alternative rock and some Beatles or something. And then drums, I didn't. My uncle gave me his old drum set, and then I started in the elementary school band program when I was in 5th grade, and that was a time where my teacher was like, "Well," he's like, "Oh, so you've done this before?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." I guess it's just kind of came a little natural to me, and then that kind of spiked my interest, being like, "Oh, I'm good at something. Like maybe I should stick with it, and practice and stuff, and do what people do that get really good." Um, and so that was encouraging to have a program like that as a kid, where people were encouraging me to, you know, do something creative. A lot of those programs have gotten cut, I think,
Yeah.
in the
So
in
you're
the years.
you think a lot of the like your instructors kind of saw early on that you kind of had this innate talent within you, specifically for drumming or for music as a whole?
Well, the working the sticks at first is definitely a weird thing, getting your hands all set and this and that. So I think that might have been part of like the sticks just kind of fell into my hands. They just kind of felt good, and doing the rudiments and learning how the stick responds to the head and all that just kind of worked with me. And I'm athletic as well, and I think drumming is kind of athletic. It's kind of like there's physics involved in this. I don't know, it just kind of worked out.
And so as you kind of went through, so you then go into high school, did you start, you said, you were like, okay, if I want to take this seriously, I have to be practicing more. What was that kind of like in high school? Are you taking a lot more lessons? Were you in like a battle of the bands? Like, did you join a band? What kind of happened at that point?
So easing into high school, my, so for those that don't know, Carrie and I we met at George Mason when she was a student and I was a very young instructor. I wasn't an I was a teacher, but I played for her dance classes.
Mm-hmm.
I was an accompanist. So so right across the street from George Mason is where I went to high school at Robinson. Um, so Robinson is a 7th through 12th high school. So there's 3 sub schools, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, 12. But it's all the same school. So the kids that are in 7th grade can hear the kids across the hallway that are seniors in high school shredding, like being like proficient musicians, So I think that was something that really helped bring young kids up, was having access to older kids that were taking it seriously, and we're playing in youth orchestras and playing at the Kennedy Center and going on tours. And but when I started there, I was in 7th grade and my drumming was good. They put me in the jazz band, but I didn't know anything about reading melodic percussion instruments. Neither did Eileen. But so they held me back. They put me in the lowest band and said, "Look, you need to learn this more musical side of percussion. Not that drumming isn't musical, but it's more the melodic percussion is more applicable to the keyboard or to producing or writing songs and whatnot." So I think I'm very grateful that my teachers did that, because it was a year of frustration of knowing everything that they were throwing at me with the drums, but then them not even letting me do that. They're like, "Nope, you're good at that. Go do this." And it was very frustrating at first, but then the next year I became the section leader of the symphonic band. So it was, that was at that point, because the middle school through high school thing, they're already kind of breeding you for marching band and for, they're like, "Oh, kid, like, all right, cool. Like, let's make sure he doesn't try out for sports," or something.
So yeah,
So
you when you like you said, you and I met at George Mason, and for those that don't know, I was a dance major, and dance majors have live musicians, someone who plays piano for ballet and someone who does drums for modern for every single class, which is pretty amazing. I had not experienced that prior to coming to college, and I think you were there. I was there 2004 to 2008, so maybe you were there the last couple years that I was there. I think you came in.
because the class I taught was to sophomores, and I think you were either a junior or a senior when I started teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't get to take my class, which means you're probably lucky, because it was a very difficult class.
Well, let me just say, Jeff, that I have a memory of you. We were in modern class with Jim Lepore, and this combination was really hard. And I just remember you spoke for the first time and you stopped your drumming and you told us, you were like, "Can you all just dance on the beat?" And I remember looking at you being like, you do this choreography, because it is so hard when you're jumping and turning and moving and staying on the beat isn't always as easy as it seems. So I think it's so funny when you made that comment. That's like my one memory of you in my head from class. But can you talk about that experience? First of all, how you got into doing that? Because I don't know if drummers know that that's even an option, to be able to do something like that. So how you got into doing that and what that was like to be in a class with dancers all day.
So I got into it because Buffy,
Mm-hmm.
was the head of the department at that time, is like my second mother. Her son and I are best friends, and my little brother and her other son were best friends. And so, like, our families had just, I think York was at my first or second birthday party,
Oh, I love that. I didn't know that.
Probably 2. If I'm thinking of the pictures, we had a little, we were kind of toddling around. And, but yeah, so I grew up going to her dance concerts and just watching her go perform in Arlington or DC or here or there. And so that was probably subliminally influential. But after my freshman year of college, Nick Hughes, who you probably remember,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
he went on tour with his band. I think at that point it was 33 West or something.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And he was going to be gone for 3.5 weeks, and they hired me to do Jim's Afro-Cuban class for the summer. When I was home I only went home for one summer. It was after my freshman year because I didn't have a place to live, and so that was my in to being like, whoa, this is really cool. I'm learning so much from the movement, and the idea of being a rhythmic rock for a room full of dancers that are moving together and sometimes in counterpoint, and just being a part of that ceremony or that process with all those people, I feel like really embedded a deeper sense of rhythm in me. And so thank you, dancers, for that.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I mean, Jim and Susan Shields did a wonderful job as well. Utilizing it, and and as Jeff is as our ordinary person, he is going to pick up his food. As we are here, we are in real life here, real time. So as you're doing that as well. Yeah, I think as a dancer, it's really different to have live music there. And I remember for Susan really encouraging us to really listen to that beat, listen to the sections of the music when you would play, when you would make something longer or shorter or more staccato, and how that would kind of reflect in our movement. And that really helped. Is there anything like when you were, again, kind of working in the class with the instructor or the dancers of like, I don't know, anything that would have helped you or could have helped us? Because we didn't really get to interact with you or talk with you that much during class.
Good. 1 second. I'm going to
Yeah. Okay, he's going to pay for his food while we do this. So if you're joining us, if you have questions, you can post them in the chat. And we are talking with Jeff Franca. He is a professional drummer, and he's been talking about his journey into drumming, kind of the beginning stages, how he started on guitar, got into drumming, did it through elementary school, middle school, high school, and then started kind of teaching some classes in college. And so, yeah, we're now kind of talking about the college experience of what we had. So, yeah, are you available to answer our question?
Yes, I am here. I am here at the Spice Room in Denver. If you ever want to get Indian food in Denver, this is where you go.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so, I think that, all set? Thanks, my man. Good to see you. Take care. All right, that's my friend. He runs the restaurant. He's a really great guy.
I love it. We're getting to meet your dog. We are getting to follow you where you pick up some food, support some local restaurants. It's, just like we support artists, it's important to support people close to us as well. So we appreciate that.
This is like I think during quarantine, this is like only the third or fourth time we've gotten takeout.
Wow, that's actually impressive.
Yes, we have been. Well, one reason is, artists everywhere, especially touring artists, are work. So, to be getting carry out, we've just been working on our meal planning and going to the store.
Yep.
Doing
Eating
all
healthier.
That.
It's good eating healthier though, right?
Way healthier. It's way cheaper. And honestly, I feel as though I haven't ever really had a chance to take on this type of role. I'm blocking traffic now. Maybe if somebody let me in, I would be okay. But I haven't had a chance since I've been like 22 or 23 to have a home routine.
So you're kind of creating that now.
I've been on the road a lot, and then when I was at Mason, it was like work, go play every night in DC, and then I started touring, and it was like I just never really have had like a home routine where going to the store, once a week or every 10 days and like meal planning. It's actually been kind of nice.
Yeah, that's good. Well, let's kind of get into some of that a little bit. So, before you started touring, was it your own band or you were part of your own band kind of in the DC area at the time?
Yeah. So when I got back from college, a few of us had, one guy got in the Navy band, and one guy was from DC where I was from, and we decided to get the band back together, the college band back together in DC, and it went really, really well until everybody in the band wanted to do something different.
Which
So
seems like that's pretty common, right?
yeah, it's common, especially at that age, you know. And I mean, it's one thing if you're in New York or LA or someplace where you're happy with the music scene, but like the music scene in DC wasn't really exactly where we all wanted to be. And so that created some, you know, dissent in just everybody's kind of attitude of like, hey, look, you know, well, are we just gonna stay in DC our whole lives and not move to New York and try to do this and try to do that? So eventually that kind of happened and the band broke up, and so I was available to join other bands and to get creative with people that I was just meeting, and that led me to kind of playing around a lot in the world music scene. You remember Kukua, right? You remember
Yeah.
Kukua?
Oh, yeah. I love Kukua. She taught at my studio when I owned a studio as well. So she's wonderful.
Nice. Yeah. So she, for those that don't know, she's the teacher of the African dance class at George Mason. And simultaneously, while I was studying with her or accompanying her class, I was playing with this guy who is a griot. And a griot is somebody who has been taught knowledge and stories by word, by handed down through stories and through elders, and their sole responsibility to society is to preserve these stories through song and through vocals. So Sheikh Homology Abate was a griot from Mali. So I was getting this big African kind of real world education from Kukua and from Sheikh. And so, you know, I was playing a lot of world music in DC, a lot of reggae, and I eventually got into this like kind of reggae funk band that played the 18th Street Lounge every Wednesday called CI. And CI will kind of bring us to like, you know, what had kind of been my big break, because all those guys were members of Thievery Corporation. And it was what they did when they were home, not on the road. And they had this regular gig at the 18th Street Lounge on Wednesdays. And that was where I kind of started to blossom more as a, let's say, I don't know, like somebody who wasn't necessarily from the music school or from the university, more of just like an artist in the scene, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's where my lifestyle started to change. And I started to realize more of who I was and like how I really connected with these people, and then their stories of touring and stuff. And so I really found a family there. And that was always very important to me in music, is that, you know, it's sacred. You don't just want to, you don't just want to have to play with anybody. It's nice if you can choose who you play with, and craft your philosophies behind the music and behind, behind the purpose of what your band is. And when that lines up with people, it's really special.
How does a band, or how does someone who's solo that wants to find a band find that family? I mean, do you just ask around? Do you just play with one another and kind of figure it out? Like, how does somebody get into the type of family you're talking about?
Well, I think initially artists and musicians just have to do everything they can. And there's kind of two ways to go about it. I've always been a little guilty in my head. And one thing I struggle with is just like, oh, I want to do that. Oh, I want to do that. Oh, I want to do that. Oh, that's fun. And I like that, and then, but all of a sudden, what is your art then? Like, if you're doing everything, what are you, you know? What is your specialty? You know, I mean, thinking back to your dance professors, you know, you had each professor was so distinctly their own style. You know, the Susan Shields, like, you know, bashing the ovaries, and then like the Adrian Fang, you know, coming from she was Verone, right?
Yeah, she did stuff with him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then, you know, Connie with Paul Taylor, and then Buffy with, like, you know, Buffy's just like one generation past Martha Graham. You know, she like with Laura Dean in the '60s. You know, I mean, that stuff's so
Yeah.
cool. And I think as a musician, you know, you owe it to yourself to learn as much as you can, but then figure out who you are within that. And that's how I think you find your family. You know, I mean, like people always say, you know, it's like, oh, we got to get a new band member. So and so is quitting. It's like, all right, well, everybody can play. Can I live in a van with this guy or girl? You know, it's like, that's really the deal breaker. Do we get along? Can we have conversations? Are we going to be like hanging out with this dude who's like, well, you know, here's what I think about this. And it's like, whoa, bro, what are you talking about?
It's interesting because I just had a couple professional opera singers on the show a few weeks ago, and they said the same thing you did. And what's interesting that I have found in dance is usually they're training dancers to be able to do everything. They always say you've got to be able to do ballet, tap, jazz, everything, be ready at the auditions. But both you and the opera singers are saying the opposite, that it's better to focus on one area in order to kind of find your niche, which I'm all about from a brand perspective though as well.
Branding in that is huge, right? I mean, and it's like, how do you, if you think about Facebook ads, you're like, all right, how do you advertise on Facebook? Well, the best way to do it is to have a group of people that are super passionate about one thing, and then they'll just like go 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 go, you know. And for me, as an artist, I'm in 7-Eleven now. I think it's really important to realize who you are. And there's hired guns that need to know everything. There's hired guns that need to be able to sit in with any band and do this and do that. But typically, if you sit down with those people and ask them to create something from their heart or something that represents who they are, they struggle with that because they're the workhorse, you know, they're the one
Yeah.
that's able to do anything and perform anything. And, you know, there's definitely two types of artists. And Susan would always say there's generative and then there's repetitive artists. So artists that can repeat things, and then artists that can generate things. And she always said I was a generative artist. So I was like, I'll take that. You know, I mean, that's, to me, that's what I want to do. I want to generate, I want to create, I want to, you know, I want to make stuff. 1 second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, if you're joining us, we're here with Jeff Franca. He is a professional drummer, and we are kind of on his evening tour as we chat about his background in drumming and what he's doing, and kind of talking right now about what it means to kind of find your niche as an artist. And I guess, for many artists, I think whether you're a performing artist, a fine artist, whatever, a lot of people struggle with what is my niche, or maybe they've done a niche for a while and now it's changed. Like, how did you kind of find your area to say, this is the type of style of music that I want to create and I want to be doing?
Well, I think that happens naturally when people start to find their friends that they like to play with, you know, and then they get influenced by their friends. And then that's sorry, my card's not working at 7-Eleven.
So as Jeff is doing that, go ahead. I'll give you a second to figure it out. So those of you that are joining us again, Jeff is talking about, again, finding your niche as an artist, and about, especially for musicians, that one of the big challenges is not just the type of music or your talent, but rather the people that you are sharing the stage with, you're sharing the van with, you're sharing the tour with, that you want to make sure they're with people that you vibe with, that you like, that all of you work together really well. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think one thing that's cool about music and art is like, chances are if you like the same stuff, you'll probably vibe, you know?
Yeah.
Like the same choreography, you'd be like, oh, well, what do you like about that? Like, oh, really? Look, I'm sanitizing. You know,
Practicing proper hygiene. I love that we're talking to you and you're a touring artist, and like I feel I feel like we're on tour with you now as we go through your regular life, which is great.
I just, yeah, I got caught up, and next thing you know.
It's okay.
But yeah, so Carrie, I'm sure you can speak on that. Is this like, you know, say you're in a quartet for dance, and there's a person that's like not into that style. It's like really hard to pull off, you know.
Yeah.
If somebody's not inspired by the movement or the music, then you can't teach inspiration,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
think but it's also interesting too, because like we talk about this not just in music and art, but also in the work world as well. It's like you want to have diversity and inclusion of thought and of people. But I think what you're saying is there does need to be some sort of a common ground for values or kind of the direction that you want to go in. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I mean, and there's always a time where you can where it's just understood that we're gonna have no direction. You know, we're gonna go and see if something just brand new comes out of this, you know, meeting of the minds or whatever. But yeah, I mean, honestly, and once you get in the professional world, there's not always time for that, and you got to have people that know what they're doing. So if it's this, you come and you do that, you know, and you get the job done. You know, I think it's important to do both. You know, the older I get, the more I kind of look back, and now I'm 35, which is crazy, right? You kind of look back and you're like, well, you know, maybe I should have decided I wanted to do this thing 10 years ago before Instagram started. Then I'd have millions of followers, right? But it's like, you can't always do that. Sometimes inspiration hits you when it hits you and you have a new thing, you know, and you have a new project, and you can't get caught up in all that. You know, if you have something new that's coming to you that's inspiring, then you just got to go with it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I want to talk about kind of what it's like to be a touring drummer. I know a lot of people know you because of the band you're with. You know, you talked about you kind of got involved with that. You had met them before, you were playing with them before, kind of elsewhere. How did kind of the whole touring thing start? And what has that experience been like?
Um, Touring started for me when I was about 23, 24. And that's when I, you know, was doing a lot of stuff like leave DC at noon, drive to New York, leave New York at 1 a.m., drive back to DC, you know, like
Yes.
up and down the East Coast, you know, and that continued for a while. But when I got in CI, which was the band of the Thievery players, the side project, we actually toured. We would fly places, Colorado. We'd do 10, 12, 14 days out on the road. But even then, it wasn't exactly what I wanted because some of the guys in the band were twice my age, you know, and it was like, all right, well, I get it. You know, I'm getting paid. They're probably losing money because, you know, it's really hard with a band of 8 people, which was we were 8, you know, to tour and make money if you're not really like selling out some tickets, you know. So but they were good business people, so they, you know, they had money to pay us for touring and all that. And that was when, you know, I kind of realized like, oh, this kind of wild guy that I've been since, you know, I don't know, 7th grade or whatever, getting in trouble for stupid shit and staying up late and not, you know, always doing the smartest thing, was like what people did on the road. It was like so fun. It was like all these people are like me, you know, they're all delinquents. So, so it, like you said, like you find your peeps, and so CI was that first experience for me, and then because of my affiliation and close proximity to the Thievery camp, I started recording on Thievery albums and working with their label, and that led me to eventually they asked me to be in the band. And that's when I was 26 years old. And that was actually my last year at Mason, because once I committed to them full time, I couldn't.
Oh, we lost you. You're on mute for a second, Jeff. So again, if you're joining us, Jeff from Thievery Corporation, professional drummer, is talking about kind of his journey. So yes, go ahead, continue your story.
Hey, I'm on this. I just got home, everybody. I forgot about my thing. So here's the food. Sorry, Carrie. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. Go for it.
I'll be upstairs. I'm gonna go get on the computer. All right, I'm home now.
We are touring with Jeff from where did we start? We were in the car to
still online here.
Picking up food. We are now back at his house.
So you can hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
I can't hear you.
So just make sure that your audio is on. You might need a headset. So those of you joining again, we are here with Jeff Franca. He is one of the touring drummers for Thievery Corporation. And we are having a very entertaining, not only conversation, but also seeing him go to different.
All right, I'm entering the studio from my computer.
Okay. So he's back home. He's going to join us from his studio back home. And I see there's a question here. We'll have him answer that as well in just a moment.
Hey. So I see.
So you have to, you just got to connect your mic and camera.
Cool. All right, start cam, unmute. Browser has blocked your mic. Can you hear me?
All right, yep, you just need to put your camera on.
It's not letting me put my camera on.
That's okay. You can stay with where you're at and continue.
I'll look at here. How's that work?
Yeah, I can see you through there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Is that better?
Yeah, if I add you, I just don't see your picture. So you can, you can just keep talking. We can do it without.
All right. Well, I'll work it out as we go. So what were we talking about?
So we were talking about you touring with Thievery Corporation and kind of what that was like. And you said, at about 26, that's when you became officially part of the band.
Right. So, yeah, I was 26, and luckily I started touring the world. Flying around and just, yeah, it was crazy.
Someone had a question. Do you write with the band or write to part of it? Or were you someone that was just playing? Like, do you have a piece of the creative component to it at all?
Yeah. So luckily when I got involved with them, it was in the studio. And a lot of their studio style is like they'll kind of get stuff together and some ideas or some grooves. And then they bring in musicians that they're like, okay, this guy's thing is kind of this thing. So we'll bring him in for the day and see what we come up with. And first session I did, I brought percussion and ended up playing like some keyboards and some melodica and stuff. And so that was actually before I started touring, was more of the creative process.
Which is really exciting. And so what is it like? I know you said, it's really like a family when you're with everyone touring, but what is it like touring for you? Is there ever a point where it feels tiring, or you're like, oh, every time I get out on the stage, I feel amazing, like that's where I belong? What was kind of overall feeling from touring for these so many years? Almost 10 years, right? 8 years or so.
Yeah. So this is the first year we've taken off, and they actually announced it at the end of last year before this whole thing. So it was kind
Mhm.
of, I was already kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do.
Yeah.
But it was,
Yeah,
yeah, I
just
mean,
how you
it's just
feel
been
about all of it.
it's great. I mean, it was a great opportunity, especially now. I don't know how much people are paying attention to the music industry, but it's kind of rebuild time. You know, we
Yeah.
have no idea what's going to happen. And to be able to say I rocked it, you know, without being 6 feet away from people, and everybody was touching everybody, probably way too much. And, you know, we're just sleeping in close quarters and just, you know, being road dogs. I feel lucky that I got to do that before this whole thing and not have to worry about PPE and, you know, all
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. And it was, yeah, I mean, and it will be, and it has been, it's, you know, the journey of a lifetime. Like I feel content. Like I'm not like sitting at home being like, oh my God, like I've never had the chance, and now who knows if I'll ever get it. It's like, okay, well, at least I got in one band that got to tour the world. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you, I mean, either for the band you're with specifically now or for you personally, what are your thoughts on kind of where you see yourself in the music industry going, since so many of us are home, people can't tour? I mean, do you see yourself using a lot more online live shows, courses? Kind of what's been your thought?
I think that it's definitely a, oh, I figured it out. Hold on. There we go. It's I've been doing the online thing, and it's fun and it's exhilarating, but it's not like the
Yeah.
same. You know, looking at these online festivals that are popping up, these lineups are just like so crazy because everybody can just do it from home, and like that's cool. But is it the same? I don't know. You know, I just don't. I hope it goes back to what it was.
Do you
And
think that there's any way that in an online way, have you seen so far, or any thoughts in your head of how there could be audience interaction with an artist?
yeah, um, I've had some. You know, like I've been DJing people's birthday parties and stuff
Oh,
on
really?
Zoom.
Oh, I
You
love
know,
it.
just like, I mean, one day I made grocery money. I made like $80 or something just for my friend who was turning, I forget how old, and she lives in Amsterdam. And she was like, I don't know what to do for my birthday. This is weird being in quarantine. And I was like, well, I'll DJ, you know. And then so we set it up. So I sent them a stream of my DJ thing. And then they all watched Zoom together while listening to the stream. And it eventually got blocked because I was just DJing. I wasn't playing my original music. And when it stopped, they were like, party over, you know, like, so it still is possible to, can you see me still?
You're good.
There we go. It still is possible to connect with people, you know, and to feel that, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
You
Where
know.
do you, I mean, so, I mean, you've been doing some online stuff yourself. I know you're doing some courses. Can you kind of talk about those kind of upcoming things for yourself?
Yeah, I just started teaching an 8-week course this Monday, on the music and history of and culture of reggae. And reggae has been something that has really, I've been drawn to as an adult. Made me realize that I was listening to way more reggae when I was a kid than I knew. You know, you just kind of think of it like, oh, that's reggae, but then you're like, whoa, how many? All these songs are like reggae songs. You know, you can hear me okay still, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's a new endeavor. I have 14 people signed up for the class, and we meet every Monday. And I have special guests from Jamaica and all over that are joining me and helping me teach. And it's helping those artists get connected to other students, because it's hard right now to ask people to pay premium price for a private lesson, and be, most people are out of work, so it's just like I tried to make a way that could be more accessible, so a longer term, cheaper class, more people, and man, it was really fun. It was really fun on Monday, and definitely going back to my experience at Mason was, with the teaching, is definitely makes it easier.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for musicians that either are students or they play in a band now and they would love to kind of maybe do the journey you've done where eventually they'd love to be touring, eventually they'd love to be with, signed with a label, or, just any advice for musicians in general, but maybe also during this current time as well in, May 2020?
Yeah. Um, One is, I think most musicians that can write a song and like can understand the parts of what goes into like a good song or into a good band, I think that is the most longevitous thing that you can try to learn and possess as an art as a musician, because knowing how it all comes together is a valuable tool, and knowing how to produce is a valuable tool, especially in the future when who knows if touring will ever be
Mm-hmm.
as, are we going to have 10 million festivals every weekend that 10 million people are at? It's like, I don't know, maybe in 5 years, maybe next year, I don't know. But like being able to work the back end of music and to understand how it really works, will always make you an in-demand player. It will always make you an in-demand player. It will always make you somebody that somebody wants to say, hey, what do you think of this? Or hey, can you take a listen and maybe add something? Or just taking that 360 approach to it, and not just thinking like, oh, I'm a guitar player. It's like, all right, cool, man, have fun live streaming by yourself at home in your basement.
Well, I think it goes back to what you said earlier, the importance of knowing your niche, your brand, also being aware of, the people you want to surround yourself with makes a huge difference. If people want to connect with you, or they want to take your course, or they want to learn more, is there a website or on social media that they can follow or connect you? Oh, did we lose you again?
Sorry, hold on. All right. All right, I'm trying to balance two screens right now.
That's okay. So just
going
is there a place that people can learn more about you or connect with you or learn more about your course, like a website or on social media?
Definitely. All of my social media outlets, which goes back to me being very distracted, but I want to do this. It's like I should have just one, but I have three. All of them are promoting the class. But if you want to sign up, it's cool because we're archiving. So if you missed week 1 or 2, or if you have to work during the day, you can come home and watch the class that you missed. So you can sign up throughout the whole 8 weeks and not miss anything. And you can sign up at livelessonmasters.com/roots. The name of the class is Know Your Roots. And we're going deep into the history and culture of Jamaican music. The platform is livelessonmasters.com, and that's actually really cool. It's something a couple of my friends that are veterans in the music industry, when this hit, they were, one was like, hey, I'm going to teach lessons. And he got like bombarded with super fans and was like, I can't manage this schedule and this logistical nightmare right now. So he hit up his other friend, Alicia, and Alicia was like, hey, I let's build a platform, I'll make a website. And then all of a sudden it was like 10 people were on it. And they were like, oh, cool. Now there's like almost 200.
which is great.
And it's everything from yoga, language, cooking, music, breathing techniques. Anybody, so it's kind of a fun website because you can go on and kind of shop around for, like, Carrie Roberts teaches you, a 32 bar phrase in modern style of dance,
Yeah, it's a nice
or
mix.
stretching or anything. Like it's really a cool platform. So livelessonmasters.com/roots is where you can sign up. You can find me on Instagram. My latest project is Ethno, and it's like an electronic world music thing, and that's Ethno Global on Instagram and Facebook. And then if you just search my name, Google works, it's magic, and
Perfect.
pop up.
I like it. The last question I like to ask all my guests, Jeff, is what is one word or quote or mantra that you try to live your life by every single day?
Whoa. Well, I will go back to what I said to musicians. And one guy I went to college with asked one time 3 words for aspiring drummers, and mine was write a song. And that's not necessarily a life mantra, but it does spill over because I am very turned on by creativity and by DIY. And but let me think. One mantra. I definitely try to work on a song every day. Maybe that's it. Maybe write a song is my mantra.
It is. It's the question I've been asking for 5.5 years, and everyone gets stumped on it every time. And some people choose a word, some people choose a quote, some people choose a mantra, and it's really interesting to see who chooses what. And kind of what it means to them at their life at that moment. And I think it's a good thing for all of us to think about, depending on what you do or what you want. I think it's helpful. So I appreciate you sharing that. So
I am now challenged. You've challenged me to find my mantra.
Yes. Well, yeah, let us know if you find a new one. I like it. Well, Jeff, this was
talk to Carrie more is my new mantra.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you being here. It's been an interesting journey and conversation with you today, going to all different places. But glad you were able to work it out and have you here. And like you said, it's definitely a tough time for everyone, but certainly for artists. I encourage you to keep doing the classes and playing, because I think there's a lot of things with technology and things that will be happening in the future that will be great for the art industry as well. So thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate you being here.
Can I show you my studio real quick?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Let's see if I can figure out how to flip this guy around.
I love it. Okay.
Bam. So that's Denver out there. You can kind of see, but this is where I make the music. That's some of my stuff. This is where I've been DJing for my live streams. And I got a bunch of stuff. I also share my studio with my closet. But yeah.
That's great. I mean, yeah, you're seeing so much stuff.
So let me ask you something. Can I ask you something? You
can ask me on the live. I usually do the asking. Yeah, so we usually do about.
How long do these things usually go?
The hour. So I just want to finish up here and just say thank you, and then you and I can chat offline as well. But yeah, we've had these anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. And so it's been a nice mix that we have of people on the audio podcast. We post 3 times a week, so you can look up Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things. And then we've recently been doing these online ones with variety of people. So it's been a really nice mix. So again, I just want to thank you, and you and I can chat offline, but thank you all for tuning in, watching now or later.
Thank you, everybody.
And we'll chat soon.